Every year, millions of people look up at it. They take the photo, they post it, they say incredible, and then they go home thinking they understand it. They don't. They don't know that this building had a different name for 6 years of construction, and that name was changed in secret hours before the opening ceremony. They don't know why. They don't know about the night in March 2006 when 2,500 workers on this site exploded in fury, the riot that nobody on the official tours ever mentions. They don't know that the world's most famous building, the one plastered on every Dubai postcard, was not connected to a working sewage system when it opened. They don't know how they solved it. They don't know that the architect kept the real height of this building secret for 6 years, even from the people paying for it. And they almost certainly don't know that Dubai, the city that built all of this, went completely broke. And that the man whose name is now on the building, he was the one who bailed them out. This is not the story of a tall building. This is the story of ambition, debt, power, sacrifice, and a secret that was finally revealed on one night in January 2010. This is everything they don't tell you about the Burj Khalifa. To understand the Burj Khalifa, you first need to understand what Dubai was afraid of. Oil. Or more precisely, running out of it. In the late 1990s, Dubai's rulers could see the math clearly. Their oil reserves were shrinking. Within a generation, the money would stop. So they made a decision that would reshape the entire region. They would reinvent Dubai as a place the world could not ignore. A city built on luxury, tourism, and spectacle, not oil. But to do that, they needed a statement. Something that screamed to every investor, every tourist, every government on the planet. We are here. We are serious. We are the future. So in 2002, Emaar Properties, Dubai's biggest developer, began planning the most ambitious building in human history. Not just the tallest building in the Middle East, not the tallest in Asia, the tallest structure ever built by any civilization on Earth. The project was handed to Adrian Smith at the American firm Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. The same firm behind the Sears Tower, the Jin Mao Tower, the One World Trade Center. Smith made an unusual choice for his design inspiration. Not a skyline, not a mountain, a flower. The Hymenocallis, a desert spider lily that grows across the Arabian Peninsula. Its 3 petals spiraling outward from a central core in a perfect Y shape. Structurally elegant, aerodynamically brilliant, and deeply rooted in the Islamic geometry that defines this region's architecture. Construction began on January 12, 2004, and the first secret began immediately. Here is the first thing they don't tell you. For the entire 6 years this building was under construction, nobody publicly knew how tall it would be. Not the press, not the public, not even most of the people working on the project. Adrian Smith, the architect, kept the final floor count and height classified. Because he knew that the moment it leaked, rival developers in other countries would immediately start planning to beat it. The only people who knew the true number were an extremely small circle inside Emaar and Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. So, for 6 years, the world watched this tower grow, floor by floor, without knowing where it would stop. Every few months, another record fell. In July 2007, it became the tallest building in the world, passing Taipei 101. In September 2007, it passed the CN Tower to become the tallest freestanding structure. In April 2008, it passed a radio mast in Poland to become the tallest human-made structure of any kind. And still it kept going. And still, nobody knew the number. The answer was revealed on the night of January 4, 2010. 828 meters. Or to be precise, 829.8 meters including the antenna. The previous record holder, the Taipei 101, stood at 509 meters. The Burj Khalifa didn't just beat it, it destroyed it by 320 meters. That night also revealed the second secret, and and this one was political. For 6 years of construction, this building had a name: Burj Dubai, the Dubai Tower. It was on every blueprint, every press release, every crane on the site, every sign around the construction hoarding. Burj Dubai. 6 years of branding, 6 years of global recognition. And then, 3 weeks before the opening ceremony, Dubai went broke. The global financial crisis of 2008 had torn through Dubai's real estate market like nothing before. Property prices had collapsed, dozens of projects had been abandoned mid-construction, and Dubai's government, which had borrowed massively to fund its spectacular growth, found itself unable to service its debt. On December 14, 2009, just 3 weeks before the Burj Dubai was due to open as the greatest achievement in Dubai's history, the emirate had to go to its wealthy neighbor Abu Dhabi and ask for a bailout. Abu Dhabi provided it, around $10 billion, enough to prevent a complete collapse. And the ruler of Abu Dhabi, the man who signed that check, was Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. On the night of January 4, 2010, as 6,000 guests gathered for the grand opening ceremony and fireworks lit up the Dubai skyline, the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, stepped to the microphone and announced for the first time that the tower would not be called Burj Dubai. It would be called Burj Khalifa. A journalist who was there that night described it as a genuine shock. Every sign still said Burj Dubai. Nobody in the media had been tipped off. It was announced as a tribute to Sheikh Khalifa's vision. But everyone in the room understood what had really happened. Dubai had named its greatest achievement after the man who had just saved it from bankruptcy. The world's most famous building is not named after Dubai. It is named after the rival emirate that bailed Dubai out. That is the secret they never put on the tourist poster. Now let's talk about what you can't see. The ground beneath the Burj Khalifa is trying to destroy it, and it has been since the day construction started. Dubai sits on sandy desert terrain, and underneath that sand is groundwater so chemically aggressive that it would dissolve standard concrete from the inside within years. High sulfate content, corrosive, relentless. So before a single floor could rise, engineers had to build a foundation unlike anything ever attempted. 192 concrete piles, each one 1.5 meters wide and 50 meters deep, drilled through the desert and into solid limestone bedrock, all connected by a concrete raft 4 meters thick. The continuous pour to complete that raft took over 24 hours without stopping, and the concrete itself? It had to be invented from scratch. BASF, the chemical company, engineered a proprietary mix resistant to chemical attack, fluid enough to be pumped hundreds of meters into the air, yet stable enough to remain workable for 3 hours in 50-degree heat. Because it had to be poured at night, in the daytime, the concrete would harden before it could be placed properly. Then came the wind. At 828 meters, wind doesn't just push, it creates vortices, spinning columns of air that lock onto a structure and make it oscillate. Left unchecked, those oscillations can crack concrete, shatter glass, and ultimately bring a building down. The solution was the building's shape. Every few floors, the Burj Khalifa steps back, narrowing, twisting slightly, changing the width it presents to the wind. This happens 27 times on the way up. By constantly changing its geometry, the tower breaks up wind vortices before they can lock on. In a once-in-50-year storm, the top of the Burj Khalifa sways by exactly 1 meter. 1 meter. And at the peak of construction, engineers were pumping liquid concrete vertically through 600 meters of pipe, breaking every record for concrete pumping that had ever existed. The double-decker elevators run at 10 meters per second, fast enough that your ears pop on the way up, because the air pressure changes are real. 22 million man-hours, 330,000 cubic meters of concrete, 58,900 tons of steel, and 103,000 square meters of glass. Every single panel tested with a repurposed World War II aircraft engine to simulate hurricane-force winds. This building is extraordinary, every single component of it. But the men who built it, That is the part nobody wants to talk about. This is the segment that no promotional film about the Burj Khalifa has ever included. The tower was built primarily by migrant workers from South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. Most of them had paid recruitment agents thousands of dollars just to secure a place on the project. Money they had borrowed, money that left them in debt before they even arrived. When they got to Dubai, some had their passports confiscated. Standard practice, they were told. But a worker without a passport cannot leave, cannot change employers, cannot go home. They are, in every practical sense, trapped. A Human Rights Watch investigation in 2006 found that the average migrant construction worker in Dubai was earning the equivalent of $175 a month. Skilled carpenters on the Burj site were earning around £4 a day. Laborers were earning less than 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, in 50-degree heat. On March 21, 2006, something broke. About 2,500 workers at the Burj Dubai site had just finished their shift. They were waiting for buses to take them back to their labor camps. After over an hour of waiting in the heat with no communication from management, the anger that had been building for years finally exploded. Workers rioted. They smashed company cars, broke into offices, destroyed computers and construction equipment. The damage was estimated at over $1 million. One worker who was present that night, an Indian man who had been on the site for 11 years, described his own daily wage as 38 UAE dirhams. That's about $10, and he was the well-paid one. Newer workers were earning 28 dirhams, around $7.60 per day. It was not the first protest. Workers had marched on the Ministry of Labor in 2004. A strike in September 2005 was described at the time as the largest labor action in UAE history. Then came 2006. Then another major walkout in 2007. 4,500 workers this time. The response from authorities was consistent. Strike leaders were deported. Workers were told that industrial action was illegal under UAE law. The complaints were noted. Some minor improvements followed. And then construction continued. By 2009, the exterior was complete. 22 million man-hours. Built by men earning less in a week than the price of a coffee in the lobby of the hotel they built. Here is the story that has been shared millions of times online. And there is truth in it, but the full version is more interesting than the viral version. When the Burj Khalifa opened in January 2010, Dubai's municipal sewage infrastructure had not kept pace with the city's explosive growth. The system couldn't handle the volume of waste that a 163-floor tower for 35,000 people would generate every day. So in the early period, sewage had to be collected and physically trucked out of the city to treatment facilities. Videos went viral showing long lines of trucks waiting, sometimes for up to 24 hours, to unload at the plant. 7 tons of waste per day, from the world's most spectacular building. It became a global joke, the most technologically advanced skyscraper on Earth, and the plumbing worked like a medieval cesspit. But here's the part the viral videos left out. Hitachi had already been contracted to build something remarkable. Using the building's own wastewater, they installed membrane bioreactor and reverse osmosis systems that purified the sewage output and recycled it. Into what? Into the water that feeds the Dubai Fountain, the world's largest choreographed fountain display, which runs directly beneath the Burj Khalifa every night. The most photographed fountain in the world is powered, in part, by the recycled sewage of the most famous building in the world. And by 2015, a 75-kilometer municipal sewage pipeline was completed, and most of Dubai's towers were properly connected. But here is what the story actually tells you about how Dubai was built. The city grew so fast in such a short time that its infrastructure could not keep up. Construction outran planning. Ambition outran reality. And for a few extraordinary years, the most glamorous address on Earth had a very unglamorous secret underneath it. That is Dubai in one story. So what is the Burj Khalifa, actually? It is the world's tallest building. It has been since 2010, and in 2026, it still holds that record. 828 meters, 163 floors, 57 elevators, the world's highest occupied floor, the world's highest observation deck at 555 meters, the world's highest swimming pool, the world's highest New Year's Eve fireworks display. It is visited by nearly 2 million people a year. It generates billions in tourism revenue for a city that bet everything on making itself unmissable. It is also a building whose name was changed overnight to thank a neighboring ruler for a financial rescue. A building whose workers rioted in the street for wages that would not cover a single night in the hotel they were building. A building that, when it opened, was trucking its waste out of the city because nobody had planned the plumbing. It is extraordinary. It is flawed. It is human. And it is, without question, one of the most consequential structures ever built, not because of its height, but because of what it changed. After the Burj Khalifa, the world understood that the Gulf was not just an oil region. It was an architectural frontier, a place where the impossible was the starting point. And it will lose its record. Within the next 2 to 3 years, if everything goes to plan on the Saudi coast, the Jeddah Tower will stand 1 full kilometer above the ground, 172 meters taller than the Burj Khalifa. Designed, by the way, by the same architect, Adrian Smith. The Burj Khalifa will become the second tallest building in history, but it will always be the building that proved it was possible. And nobody, no matter how tall the next one gets, will ever be able to say they don't know its story again. If this video gave you something you didn't know before, that is exactly what this channel exists for. Subscribe, because the next build we are covering, it makes this one look like a warm-up. Titan Projects. We build the impossible.